You are watching the Noise Commander 3DS channel. Here I document the progress of my homebrew beatmaking app for the Nintendo 3DS and 2DS that I develop. Think DJ mixing of tracker-style sequences with groovebox features such as probability and Euclidean rhythms. Please subscribe if that sounds interesting to you and install the demo version via the Universal Updater app on your console. This is an update video covering the new version 0014. Feel free to skip to any of the video chapters if you're interested in a particular topic. This is a long and chaotic video, but I will make a concise step-by-step tutorial video about the clip matrix and the tracker editor next. What is Noise Commander? My definition of Noise Commander is it's intended to be a live performance-oriented groovebox with tracker-light editing capabilities. It should allow to perform long sets, that is why the user may load two independent songs and transition them as a DJ. There's an Euclidean sequencer mode, and I aim to add more experimental sequencing features and randomization in the future. Resampling should be in the spotlight as well, out of necessity for one, and because it's fun. Necessity because the CPU does not allow to layer many effects at the same time. What's new in this version 0014, you might ask? So the additions are: short loops are now possible without clicking. Portamento pitch gliding helps with bass lines. New bus and master lanes for effect automation and long fades. Being able to automate the bus filter and reverb parameters was a major need I saw after making the Beatober beats last year. But I deferred making this change for a long time because I knew it would be a fiddly task and I didn't have much time. Now that I had more time, I'm delighted to have finally addressed this. The new fade commands allow long transitions of volume or bus filter cutoff over up to 8 bars, and long pitch glides are also possible. I had a branch with a very simple looper that was meant to record continuously and be a way to quickly capture audio or make transitions while new tracks are loaded. But now I did port the Factotum looper from the Axolotl over, which has pitch shifting and time stretching capabilities. So don't take this as the definitive looper. I think I will need to find a way to combine the two and get the best of both worlds. But it's definitely useful as a sound design tool. There are also now 6 different filter types available for each bus: low pass, band pass, high pass, and for each there's a state variable and a bicquad version. The bicquad version takes a little more CPU and has less of a built-in resonance. The bus filters feature a sine LFO for now, but I might change this over and add more different LFO types. CIA files can now be installed from the file browser by pressing A. An extremely simple waveform-view with truncating function, which removes everything before or after the cursor. Parameter columns can now be dynamically shown or hidden. And there's a new crossfade function which can turn any sample into a loop. So during the development I increasingly had to investigate performance. The CPU performance is kind of choking when all effects are enabled on both decks. I have added a profiling mode and a log widget which helps me debugging and examining the performance of the code. I did a multi-track recording test and it turned out to cause crackles and was generally too slow. It may be just my code and I will try again. But it may be a feature only meant to materialize for the new 3DS mode, as that has a higher clock rate. There were some other researches that kind of failed or are up in the air. One thing I just noticed, I forgot to add code for adjusting the instrument volumes when loading songs of previous versions, so the volumes may be different. So I was also quite struggling with the graphics side of things. Optimizing the drawing code itself was my first approach, so I wrote a shabby Pika 200 geometry shader for the GPU which creates quads and assigns UVs to emulate the tile drawing of the default font from the libc2 console mode. Once I had this being lightning fast, it did not improve the overall speed that much, however, because the slowness actually comes from assembling the tile data in the first place. The tiles are redrawn every frame immediate style, so I decided upgrading the graphics is a longer project and I put it on hold for now. It would be nice to make the GUI prettier. I will need to look into combining the two loopers. The Factotum uses a lot of CPU, so it could make sense to allow the user to switch between it and the simple looper. And we definitely want to have an overdub mode as well. So here's how I used some of the new features in the demo songs. Here in this intro I have a noise sweep, as you can hear. So on this pad there's a noise sample. It's a little loop. To make the pitch glide, I'm inserting 2 notes. You see it starts like from C0 and the second note is C9. And when there's no instrument in a note, it glides. And then here in this column, I set the glide speed to the maximum value, so it glides very slowly. And then additionally, there's a fade in here. So that's a new feature, like only on certain channels, I can hold B and press up or down to insert these additional fade commands. You see channel fade in is I, O is for out, U is for up and D for down, and then T is where you can set like a limit or a clamp value, so the fade will stop at that value. Normally the I command will fade from 0 to the maximum value, but then you can say, no wait, stop at like 50% or this and that. And then there's also the stop command which will simply abort, like stop the fade value at wherever it's currently at. So yeah, let me solo this. And this is how it sounds. And here on row 6, I did something similar on track 11 or lane 11. But here I remember, as you can see, I made a probability, so this pitch glide will only occur every second time that it is triggered. So I'm going to let it run. And you see now it doesn't do anything. And then the second time, let's say you wanted to load a very short loop, which could be like a single cycle wave. So here I copied some samples from the Renoise library that are single cycle samples. I'm just going to take this one, press A, and then I need to press B and go to the second page and enable loop. And then set the play mode to 1. And now I have this. I wouldn't recommend using the pitch envelope, but it is there, so I can. The pitch amount default value is 64, and if you go lower, then the pitch will go down. And if you go higher, then the pitch will go up. And of course you can change the speed. So here we have a nice saw, I guess. But if I press Y here, then I can reset the value to the default, which is no pitch amount or pitch envelope. So if I insert a note here, I can make it glide to another note by deleting this instrument column here, which I can do by holding B and pressing A. And by default, it will use the pitch slide amount here on this second page, I think, of the instrument. So you can either statically set like one value, or you can override the value and put like something else. Sorry, here in the GL column. So this will be probably much slower. Oh yeah, and now that I changed it, I want to get back to sort of a normal state, and that's why I'm setting the 5 value here on the first note. Or I can probably make it much faster. I don't know. While we're at it, I just want to try this on a vocal. Why not?
Voice command of 3DS.
Yeah. So octave lower, octave higher, and back to normal. And then I can simply delete the... So, by the way, if you have selected multiple values, you can also delete them quickly by, again, holding B and pressing A.
Voice command 3DS.
Let me mute the first track.
Voice command 3DS. Voice command 3DS.
Yeah, so you can do that sort of thing. By holding A and moving up or down, you can shift notes or lines. And maybe because the sample is so short, it was running out before it finished. Oh wait, I'm editing the wrong track. Just want to see how this sounds.
Voice command 3DS.
Yeah. If I want to duplicate a section, I have to go to the last step of it. So not this row, but this row. And I can hold X and then press up to select everything above. And then I go one right to also include the instrument values. Then I can press Y and say duplicate. And so now I've got
Voice command 3DS. Voice command 3DS.
got this happening multiple times. So now if I wanted to fade the volume on this channel in, I can go here, hold B and press up on the D-pad. Oh no, so wrong channel, that's the volume column. This might be confusing. There's one volume column that's for the notes and one that's for the channel. So we want to go to the channel column, hold B and press up and say I for fade in, and then I can tell it how many steps. So if I give it 32, by the way, if you see that I'm entering hex values, but at the bottom I can see the decimal value, so that makes it better to understand. And then you see it's fading in and reaching the full volume after 32 steps. So if I want the fade to be longer than the actual phrase clip, I actually have to make a duplicate and remove the fade command to prevent it from restarting. And I just found a little bug in the clip matrix editor. So I have to go and make actually a selection. So I move the cursor to the clip that I want to duplicate. I press X and then press Y. So by pressing X, I made a selection, and then I can choose duplicate slots unique, and that should create a new phrase number, as you can see here, number 7. If I now press start on it and press right on the D-pad, I can now edit that phrase and remove the fade. And if I now go back here to the first row and play it, we should slowly hear the fade in. There we go. And then I have this bass sound, which is actually a loop, if I remember correctly. And in the end, I think there's a... Yeah, here there's a pitch slide. Again, simply you just remove the instrument number to achieve the pitch slide and set the speed that you want here in the GL column. That's the sample. Guys, I just found another bug. I wanted to show you the resampling because I did use it a lot in the Beatober songs. But what I found is that it's not supposed to get quieter after, like, what you record should be the same volume. But I realized that this only works when the buses are set to the maximum value here. So I'm just gonna pretend, or like do that, you know, for the sake of the demo. So the way it works is the sample will be assigned to your current pad, and I'm going to the second deck so that I don't override anything from the original song. For it to work, it needs to be playing, so I press start. And then I use the circle pad to select this resample button thingy here. Press A, select how many bars, I say 2. You can set the recording source, 0 means the master and the other numbers are the individual buses, if you want to resample a single bus. And then it'll ask when to start, so I wait for the end of a bar, or like, you see it starts at the next bar. So it's sampling now, and now it's stopped. And now we have sort of 2 instances. So if I move the crossfader over, we have our sample. We can see it here actually. And I can go here into the track lane and insert as a note, but of course the clip is now only 1 bar long, so it will, I think we can see it here in the sample editor. Yeah, it's sort of restarting and playing only half of the loop. So what we can do is just change the phrase length here to 64. And I did like a little thing where if you hold this and press the left D-pad button, you can snap to multiples of 4, so it's easier to set the 64 value. Yeah, so now I've got that, and then I can go to the slice mode, and by default we have 16 slices. I'm gonna set the quantization to 4 steps. And now I can play the slices. And if I want to record them, I just have to make sure that I'm in follow mode, so the cursor is following the playhead. So that happens if I press A, and then if I press record, I can record something. And of course I can now add some effects and then mangle it a little more and then resample it back maybe to the other track. In the future it's supposed to be possible to simply copy samples from one track to another. I want to show the Euclidean chain sequencer and how to sort of get generative and do crazy random sounds. So I'm just gonna load my standard samples. And I'm gonna pick 2 bassy channels and 2 SFX sounds and apply sequencing. So I'm gonna straight ahead go and set the length to 1 for each of these sounds, because it's supposed to be a bit more percussive. Yeah, let's start with this guy. If I press right on the D-pad a few times, I reach this Euclidean sequencer. Let's actually start the transport. If I enable it, then you see at the bottom these 4 colored sections. Each is a Euclidean sequence where you can insert different amounts of tricks. So by default the clip length will sort of limit the length and start repeating. So for example, if I make this one really short, it will still reset itself every 32 steps. If you look at the little white dot at the bottom, you can see that even if I make the sequence pretty long, it will still only cycle through to the top row. You can set any clip length you want, and there's also a mode to unlock this, so the lengths can go sort of be divorced from each other. But I found it's kind of nicer to have somewhat of a repetition. And then there's this random button here that sets just random values and gives you something. But one crucial element that's hidden on the second page here is the pitch amount. In the background, there are 8 pitch values that are being stepped through like an arpeggiator that are independent from the Euclidean sequence. And you cannot actually manually set them yet, but you can re-randomize them. So what we hear is sort of a repeating melody, right? But I can roll the dice and get something that's different. Yeah, and again, on the first page you can play with it. And it gets more interesting if I add a second sound. So and let's go to the others as well. Yeah, so we have a repeating pattern. And because they're all on the same bus, I can enable this LN bus button here, and then if I hold the pad and press right or left on the D-pad, I can swap all the sounds at the same time and get something random. And what I like to do on the second page, there's this rise attribute which modulates the pitch over 4 bars very slowly. And let's set it to some of the sounds. Positive value goes up and negative value goes down. Try some other different sounds again. I can add some reverb and some delay. And in the past what I liked was to distort it a little bit. Let's first actually start with the filter down a little bit, enable fold, and then I have to apologize in advance that the distortion settings are very weird, so you want to set some very low value for the width. The lower the value is, the more it will start to get into noise. So if I and then the filter mix has to be somewhere in this first quarter. So see if the filter width, if I set it to 1, we get this crazy noisy distortion. So that's why I have the low pass filter, because it's a bit unbearable at the maximum value, but you can kind of play with it. You could even activate the filter amount, the filter LFO. Yeah, but let's tame it a little bit. Maybe set a width of 4 and open the filter again. So now we have an LFO going. And can step through different sounds. And on top of that, you can always go into the roll mode to create some rhythmic variations. This is really fun to perform with, actually. Let's put a drum beat on this, some track here. Loops, drum loops. Any drum. But I'm gonna set this to play to another bus that's independent. Maybe it's a bit too much reverb. Yeah, and that's the Euclidean sequencer. Alright, now I'm gonna show the filter modes. I have this vocal loop playing. Let's say I assign it to bus 3. Then if I press left on the D-pad and select bus 3, I can enable the filter here and play with the cutoff like it used to be, but now here we have different filter types. So we have the first 3 are the state variable variants, low pass, band pass, and high pass, with resonance. The biquad variants are slightly different. They lose volume more quickly, but they are more surgical and more, I think, useful for mixing, where you want to actually remove frequencies. For example, here on the high pass, it gets really much quieter, whereas the state variable filters, they are sort of consistent in volume and are probably more useful for synthesizers, whereas the biquads are more for mixing, I would say. And there's also a filter LFO now, Alright, and then let me show you the Factotum looper. This was written by Remco van der Most, aka Sir Sigsig, for the Axolotl, and I ported it over. If you press left a few times, you will reach this screen. That's the Factotum looper. So if I press this enable button here and press record, it will start recording, and pressing it again will stop recording. So if I dial down the dry, we only hear the looper wet signal, and here we can actually use the time stretch and the pitch shift. With this window thing, if you go positive values, then you get sort of this weird delay effect. And here if you lower the length, then it shortens the loop. And it can be really cool to sample something from the mix of a song and just let it repeat with a different speed in the background. It just gives some nice texture sometimes. And this reset button resets all the values so you get back to the normal loop. Yeah, so that's that. Now for the waveform-view, you get to that if you press right on the D-pad a few times, and it will show the current pad's sample. You can press A to audition it, and you can use the touch to move the cursor, and then it will play from that position. Up and down on the circle pad will zoom in and out, and left and right will pan. Other than visualizing, the only other feature or functionality that is here is to truncate. So let's say I want to delete everything on the left side to the cursor. I press X, boom, and now I have this. Maybe I want to cut everything on the right side from here. And now I only have this sample. And maybe I want to cut it here again to have the transient. So let's say I want to create a loop from this sample. I can simply go to where it says X-fade here and confirm, and it will take a while. Longer samples will take longer. And now you see it blends the first half into the second half, and it sets the loop start point at 50%. Maybe let's try it with another sample, like this one. With the new version you can also hide these individual columns, but for some reason it makes the companion app crash. I can show you the menu. If you hold B and press left on the D-pad, then here at the bottom you can untick some of the lanes. So why am I doing this? The short answer is because I can and I want to. And also procrastinating from making music, to be honest. It's all a big experiment and a learning journey. I don't know that much about DSP programming after all, and I'm learning a lot from the Axolotl code as I am porting things over to the 3DS. I've been searching for the perfect groovebox and sequencer and started developing my own solutions in the past. I went from Raspberry Pi to Axolotl to the Nintendo 3DS. I wanted something that is very small, portable and battery powered. I didn't know much about the Dirty Wave M8 tracker at that time. The M8 beats Noise Commander in almost every aspect, but that's beside the point. Noise Commander is its own thing and it should be viewed as a complementary tool. Aside from the M8, there are hundreds of great apps and grooveboxes out there, and we are quite spoiled in a good way these days. It's just that I'm doing my own thing that is exactly tailored to how I want it and to the kind of music that I intend to create. I hope it aligns with your views, but it may not. I envision using Noise Commander as my performance centerpiece. I may produce music with other gear or software and bring the loops into here to remix and mangle them further. I had been working on Noise Commander only on weekends and during holidays for the past 2 years, but I recently lost my job. It came in handy because I really wanted to spend more time on development and programming, but now I no longer have an income and I am literally begging you to buy the app and or donate me money on Patreon. No need to beat around the bush. I'm yet another YouTube beggar now. Much love and thanks to those who already signed up, you are the best. I now got over 200 non-paying Patreons and I make about $50 per month. Technically my dream has come true, I am earning money with Noise Commander. Now I just need to make it much better and scale up, right? Please join my adventure and subscribe to the channel if you're into what I do.
Oh, pie.